again. We do it again with the streak. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the May 2024 episode of the streak. It is Static X, the Machine Killer North American tour from last year, alongside Sevendust and Dope, of course. I'm your host, as always, Drake Riggs, here for another walk down memory lane for one of my all-time favorite bands. Boy, oh boy, how I love me some Static X. So I'm very excited to talk about this episode but also like, I want to go back to this show so badly. I so badly want to go back to that night, May 2nd, 2024. But I guess it just means we have to see Static X again, obviously. That's the easy, clear, simple solution. But again, if you're unfamiliar with the show, you guys, definitely you will want to go back throughout the series to understand some references and whatnot that we will be talking about on this one. But for the most part, this should be a pretty standalone episode, even though I will say right off the jump here, continuing off of the April 2024 show, which was The Amity Affliction and Red-Handed Denial and Unprocessed. My brain went backwards there for some reason. I will say that this was the same week. This was the same week, even though separate months, we still hit the mark of, seeing them in a different month. The Amity Affliction show was the end of April. What that was, I have it up right here. Let me check real quick. That was April 29th, and then this show was May 2nd. So a couple days later, same week, 2 different months though. So like, I kind of just got that out of the way super quick. But I was like, I have to see Static X, of course. I figured that out pretty quickly. I was like, well, we're definitely getting the tickets to that one. No questions asked about it. Then we won't have to worry about the rest of the month. But then as the month goes on, you're kind of like, well, shit. I already got this one. We should do another, though. I'm getting that itch. I'm getting that itch to see another and not have this big gap of time. It then leaves. It's not spaced out at all. You know what I mean? You're just kind of ramping up and overloading in a short span, which can be a great old fun time. And again, I've done that multiple times since a fucking year ago now. We're catching up with the streak, you guys. With this podcast, we're catching up pretty quickly because it is May 31st at the time of recording, so this is going to go out next week from this day that it's recording. And we're talking about last May. So we are catching up at a pretty decent clip here. And as is tradition on the streak, we'll say what the first song we heard by the band was. And this is a tricky one. This is a tough one because, again, like I said, Static X is one of my all-time favorite bands, which means we're going back a long time because I'm getting fucking old. And I'm trying to think. When I first heard of and discovered Static X, I want to say it was maybe 8th grade or freshman year, like right into high school, which would have been around 2010, around there. Definitely it was before high school, of course, before finishing high school. I'm pretty confident that it was the song that started us off here with the show today. I believe it was Destroyer. I'm pretty confident. Not 100% that it was Destroyer, that was the one. Which I believe I heard from, I think, Octane. Again, shout out to SiriusXM Octane Radio. Back around those times, a lot of new music I would find through the radio, specifically the Octane channel or station, however you want to call it. So I think it was that one. Maybe I'm with Stupid. Maybe even Cannibal. which is coming up here on the playlist shortly. I also see the one I just mentioned there, and Push It, of course. It could have honestly been any of those that I just mentioned. And you'll notice if you're a Static X fan, the Cannibal timeline that I just mentioned there. That was around when that album came out, right? 2010-ish. Now it's gonna drive me crazy if I don't double check here. So let's do that real quick. As I've done a couple times my live on air, not live mid-show researching, because I wing it for the most part with these. If you guys can't tell by now, if you're a reoccurring listener, and just kind of go back through the time machine. But let me see when Cannibal came out. That was the album as well. 2006. Okay, so recorded in 2006, came out in 2007. So yeah, exactly. It was between. I heard about Static X between there and Cult of Static. So yeah, okay, it was probably right. I probably heard about them in middle school then. It was probably like 8th grade-ish. Yeah, because I mean that was really the time I started totally falling in love with metal. So that makes complete sense. But you know, it's just that thing of, aside from having just an incredibly unique look, and to an not look, but I mean, yes, a look. Shout out to Wayne Static, who I was about to talk about, but the sound, Static X for the most part has their own, one of those sounds again where, like I was saying about the Amity Affliction on the last episode, like you hear the band, you know immediately exactly that it is them. Because of, you know, what they're doing. The dual singers was always a big thing, like I mentioned with Aaron. And with Static X, they essentially, to an extent, invented their own genre. Of course, shout out to Evil Disco, and I have plenty more to say about that as we go on with this episode, but it's not your typical metal. I know what industrial, that's kind of the big subgenre they'd be classified as, all that industrial metal and whatnot, which is certainly fair. But yeah, and then you see Wayne Static, R.I.P., the man himself, and you're like, who is this fucking guy? Looks like the Slim Jim dude to an extent. The hair all zapped up, perfectly fitting for, you know, the band and the name and everything like that. Just one of the unsung heroes and legends of the metal community. The past, 20 plus? 30 years, I guess now. I mean, for as long as he was around anyway, of course. Passed away 11 years ago now. Crazy. 2014, so right like after I graduated. November, I think is what it said. I did minimal research there on that one. Looking that up. Before we started here. Yeah, wow. I didn't even realize he actually died 3 days before his birthday, so that makes it even sadder. I mean, it's been, like I said, 10 years since then, but my goodness, that was such a sad time. I don't think the loss of a musician ever hit me as hard as that one did. And I think mainly just because, like, man, I had so much fun listening to them growing up, and just kind of, you know, watching Wayne in interviews and seeing just kind of the guy that he was, and then to never get to see him live always kind of fucking really stung. It really, you know, was like, damn, I really wish I would have got to see him live. And, you know, at that time in high school, I was not a big nowhere obviously near as what I am now, doing an entire show about my concert experiences. Like, I had seen maybe five at most, 5 shows before I graduated. Like, once I got out of high school, what my number was at, it was probably around 5 maybe in my whole life. So yeah, I was always bummed about that because I always wanted to do more, but it's hard when you're at that stage in life, right? So missed out on it, and then finally got to it, to see Static X 10 years later, which is kind of crazy to think about it that way. And I mean, as for May, like I said, this show was at the beginning of the month, and I'll usually recap kind of what was going on at these times when the shows were happening. But May was a pretty standard month. I mean, I had a day trip to Dallas for, I believe that was a pre-fight press conference for the Mike Tyson Jake Paul boxing match. So that happened in May. Was kind of crazy. A lot of great music was released that month. We had Baby Metal and Electric Callboys collab came out on my buddy Alex's birthday. Shout out to him. Went out. He was with me for the Zach Wilde show. Of course, all the Dante shows on the Thursdays. New Red Hand's Denial came out that. I don't know if it was the album that month, but yeah. There wasn't anything too insane about that one. Like I said, we were pretty on track with the plans by then and gearing up to move to Memphis, which came the month after. And we'll talk about that on the next episode. So that'll be good. I mean, the next two, June and July, have some pretty good stories attached to them, you guys. So there's your teaser for the next two. But Static X, Sevendust, dope. But Lines of Loyalty was the other opener. We were back in the good old Roseland, of course. Which, man, I think that's kind of crazy and poetically nice. Well, I guess never mind. But I mean, something else hit me that made me say never mind. But the last show that I saw while living, I have to specify it this way, while living back home the Pacific Northwest, was at the Roseland with this one. This was actually my last one now that I think about it, because June was over here. So that's kind of even more special in that way. This was just a special show in general. So let's get into it. Let's start talking about the show, which, my goodness, it was quite a fucking time. And I got there. I was very excited, of course, for this one. Like I was saying, hard not to be. And it was kind of, you know, you're not sure what to expect. I hadn't avoided kind of the newer things or what Static X was doing in the past 10 years of, you know, Wayne being gone and whatnot, because there was, you know, a lot of things around that time period in the band going on. Not controversies, I want to say, but, you know, just like, you know, musical drama, you could say. And then I remember in like 2022, I think it was, hearing some of those Project Regeneration tracks for the first time, which there were some, like, I don't want to say lost, but, you know, they had vocals held onto that they planned to do for songs from Wayne, so it was like unheard of, unreleased music. Or specifically of, you know, like, Wayne's voice. You know, they did the really cool, there were some music videos for, I forget which one it was, but, you know, they've paid him great tribute over the past 10 years. And when I first heard those, I was like, oh my God, this is crazy, you know, and it makes you a little emotional, you know, hearing like, there's stuff you've never heard of from him, music specifically, and it's just like wild, especially some of what the songs are about. So it's like, man, how is this gonna work? Like, are they just gonna play him over? I wasn't following them as closely, so I didn't know what was going on. I knew, of course, they had the guitarist kind of, oh man, what do we call the guy? Zero? That's his name? That's the mascot, the new mascot, you could say. I think that's yes, Zero. All right, that's what I thought. Who is, you know, supposed to be essentially Robot Zombie Wayne to an extent. I wasn't sure if he like sang or what the deal was. I kind of like didn't want to know. So I was very curious going in to be like, so are there shows just, you know, performing the music, you know, performing the songs, doing just pretty much instrumentals, and then playing Wayne's vocals over them. Like, how is this gonna work? Which I would not have been mad at. Again, it's not the same by any fucking stretch of the imagination, but I would have been down for it. So I kind of didn't want to know that going in, which this was one of those shows where, yeah, like I said, sometimes I'm curious to see what the set lists kind of look like or have been looking like for the shows throughout. I think I went into this one fully blind because I was like, I'm just going to take it in. This is going to be just quite an experience. And loved Sevendust as well. Always been big fans of them. I mean, that the whole time period of kind of this metal subgenre of sorts, even though Sevendust obviously not quite as industrial, I don't think you could say, but you know, that late 90s metal really burst onto the scene in the early 2000s and whatnot. And so I get there at the Roseland pretty on time. You know, I'm generally getting there pretty as the shows start, because for the first openers, no offense to them whatsoever, and in this case it was Lines of Loyalty, who I didn't know who they were, but I usually don't care too much about the very first opener. It depends. Again, it depends on the show, and some more often than not, maybe you haven't heard of the very first opener, right? Like, there are some shows where you know all the bands, which I do have one coming up here at the end of July show that I'll be going to for the July 2025 end of show. I mean, oh my goodness, I'm not even gonna spoil it for you guys, but I have 3 shows already planned for this summer that are fucking super exciting. And they're all ladies now that I think about it. Female-fronted showcases. Every single one of them. That's just dawning on me, so fuck yeah. Anyway, where I was going with that was Lines of Loyalty had been playing. It was probably within just a couple songs of theirs, and you know, fine band, good band. They were pretty fun. It was still filling up in there in the Roseland, so I was able to get pretty positioned pretty centrally around the pit. You know, I kind of try to wander into that orbit when entering, especially the Roseland. If you can get there appropriately, you're gonna have a good time no matter who is playing. And yeah, Lines of Loyalty, they had some they were good. They were a nice, fine, serviceable opener. I'm not gonna lie and say I enjoyed them enough to have looked up anything since then in this past year to have really followed along with them, but they were good. Like, if they came on, I probably wouldn't skip it. That's always a good thing, so we'll say that. But they were fine. But then we get to Dope. All right, Dope comes in right after, so it's pretty much like you're getting the ultimate, the sipping, the wine to your cheese and crackers with the appetizer of Lines of Loyalty, right? And then you're just going. The show is taking off immediately after with Dope. And even though they're from the same time period, right, and been around for as long as Static X and Sevendust, I really was not too familiar with Dope whatsoever. And I'll give you this spoiler here, you guys. So if you don't want to know the lore or the backstory of things behind the connection of Dope and Static X, Dope has been on like they do every single tour now with Static X, and the belief, it's like the best unkept secret right now, I guess, in metal, is that is it Etzel? Let me just double check here. Ensel or Etzel? Etzel. It's Etzel. Etzel Dope. Okay, yes, the lead singer of Dope, of course. He the best kept secret is that he is Zero, I guess, right? Like, it has not been confirmed fully. Like, he hasn't flat out said it. Nobody's flat out said it, at least that I've seen. I've looked into it a bit, but it's pretty much like common knowledge and makes sense when they're always going together. And the aesthetics, and people have, you know, done all their fucking detective work on that shit, but I can see it. After having seen them, I can see it, and it's fine. It's whatever. It was good, but we'll continue on with that. But anyway, I wasn't too familiar with Dope outside of like Die Motherfucker Die, right? Their huge song, their big hit. So Dope comes on stage. Edsel is just looking like the most chill guy ever, and it's kind of like, I'm kind of taken aback by it. I'm like, is this just how this dude always is? Like, what kind of energy is he bringing here? Like, it was very interesting to see him perform kind of lazily, you know, slothishly. And I had known going into the show that, like, the days before I was kind of looking into things a little bit, and I was seeing that people, you know, assume he is Zero and all that type of thing, and it was like, man, he's gonna do 2 sets. You know, this guy's a fucking trooper if that is actually the case. And maybe he's saving his energy. I don't know how he does it here, but that's not to say he didn't deliver on the songs, because it was great. Dope fucking killed it, and I mean, the fans were there for them, and I guess you obviously kind of have to. You have to like Dope if you like Static X at this point in time, because they're permanently linked together now. But I had a pretty good central spot. It was pretty cozy in there, in the crowd, right? And for this one, I wasn't really trying to mosh too much, because again, as I've said in previous iterations of the show, like, if it's a band I'm really attached to and really want to just fucking soak in and party with them, vibe to the music, I want to kind of be as close as possible and sing along, and, you know, there's 2 different feels to it, right? Whereas maybe if you're more loosey-goosey, depending on, you don't want to lose your spot. Essentially is what I'm getting at, is I don't want to lose my spot, because that is pretty easy to do if you're always moving around, of course. And so it depends on the bands and kind of the songs and all that stuff. But for this one, I was like, all right, I'm going to try to slowly inch my way up. And I was like, again, pretty central for Dope until they played Die Motherfucker Die. So, I mean, this was one of the craziest experiences that I've had at a show, because it goes back to, I remember at my first or second Five Finger Death Punch concert back in, like, now that was like 8th grade, so we're going back to those days as a kid, as a teenager, when Death Punch was red hot, blisteringly on fire. The shows there were like sardine packing, right? And of course pre-pandemic as well, so everybody was just amped up, like fighting. Everybody is fighting and squishing and squeeze, every single description you could use to get to the front, you know, just violently just sardining, right? Jam-packed into the venue. It is overfilled, all that type of stuff. So I say that because with Dope, you know, Edsel's kind of setting it up, and he, you know, is teasing what's to come. And here it's Die Motherfucker Die, setting the stage. Let's go. Let's fucking party. And the entire room, every single human body in the room, in the crowd, just floors it, maximum speed to get to the front. And I'm just launched. I didn't have a fucking choice. I got squished, pushed. The chaos of everybody losing their fucking minds to that song. Mind you, again, this is the second band of the show. For Die Motherfucker Die, the pit that they created, the chaos, the amount of people that wanted to get into it and to push everybody to the front, it launched me all the way to the guardrail. I got immediately front row from like halfway through Dope's set. When there's 2 bands left to play, I was like, all right, well, now I can't move. If I wanted to mosh around, which I definitely would have, especially for Sevendust, that's out the window. I'm not going anywhere now. And when you're in the front like that, you have to fight for the position sometimes, because assholes will try to take it from you. I shouldn't say assholes, but, you know, if people are trying to physically work their way in, it's like, what do you fucking think? What are you thinking, man? Like, I don't think anybody likes that. So maybe it is fair to call them assholes, but I still feel like I get it. But like, I have never once tried to squeeze my way intentionally, like move someone off the rail when they are very clearly in front and hanging on for dear life. Like, fuck that, you know. I had no choice but to get squeezed up there, which was incredible. And I've never been just kind of gifted that before, so it was kind of amazing to get launched that way. Really great stuff, really fun. I was like, this is all right. Here we go. Let's go, Sevendust, baby. And they came out and absolutely crushed it, killed it too. And like, man, one of those bands that is, I want to say they felt fucking heavier live than when you listen to them in the studio recordings and just, you know, songs like we're listening to now. Sevendust was a fucking heavy set, and shout outs to LeJon Witherspoon, the lead singer. Awesome dude. I've seen some interviews with him. Just seems like a cool guy, and you know, great singer. And the stage presence. This guy is so goddamn aware of every single person. And I say this because we had a moment. We shared a moment together, so it made this show so cool and memorable and special to me. This early into it, right? Like, we're not even to Static X yet, and I'm just having such a great time. But you know, like I said, I've liked Sevendust for a long time. You know, never been one of my favorites or anything. I really enjoy them and, you know, love them more since this and all. But their bangers bang, if you know what I mean. The bangers that they have fucking bang. And I feel like out of the three, you know, out of Static X, Dope, and Sevendust they had the crowd least with them, if that makes sense, right? Like, they were still, Portland was there for it. The Roseland was popping for everybody, but I mean, again, like, it was insane how much they fucking loved Dope. I couldn't believe it. I was like, holy shit, I knew that this song was popular and people loved it, but Jesus, like, Die Motherfucker Die, that was one of the craziest single songs that I've ever been a part of being performed, like, in a crowd. It might be number one. I'm trying to think of, like, the reaction to a song that I've seen. I don't know if that one is... There's been a crazier one than that one. People went insane for that song. Which, I mean, it's kind of the nature of that one, I suppose. So, makes sense. But I'm in the front at this point, right? And just having an absolute blast. And Sevendust gets to Bitch. They get to their song, Bitch. And, you know, this is still... We're a couple months removed, a good, healthy handful of months removed from my my bad relationship with Mystique, right? And I had never. That song it's probably my favorite of theirs and the one I've listened to the most. So there was that alone, but I had never really emotionally connected it in any way with anything. But once that song came on and, like, I knew where it was coming, and the way that LeJon, I think how he led into it and kind of, you know, was just saying how we've all had this type of person in our lives and everything, and leading to the song and all that, it just fucking hit me and took over, and I was just... I lost it. I was one of those, you know... You lose control moments in terms of the emotions just doing their thing. You are autopilot, third person, out of body experience, and the song hits, and I don't think I've ever headbanged so fucking hard in my life. Just over the guardrail, completely so goddamn into it. Horns up, fully. Tears starting to come out of my eyes a little bit. Just so impossibly in the moment, everything kind of hit me with that. And I saw LeJon kind of, you know, he looked at me because I'm easily going harder than everybody else in the front row because that's all I can see, but I'm like kind of seeing in my blurry crazy vision. But then he locks eyes with me, and, you know, he kind of gives me a little nod, and I don't think I was recording for that. I can't even remember. Probably not, I would imagine, because that was as the song started. But it was really cool for him to be like, you know, to have the moment and recognize somebody who was into it, whether they could control it or not. He had no idea, right? But he was he was very good at connecting with the crowd. I noticed that, not just with me, but other people. But we did have that moment, which was like, yeah, man, I feel it. I feel what you're bringing with us. So that was really cool. Great song, great moment. One of my favorite experiences, honestly, from all of this streak. From any concert, from any show ever. I mean, I remember that moment so vividly, so clearly, as I sit here and think about it now. And again, it's like one of those things where you want to see it. You want to do it over and over again as quickly and as much as possible. So, yeah, I'm there right now, you guys. I'm trying to come back. It was something. It was very cathartic. I'll say that much for sure. And so then we get to Static X. And oh man, it's just kind of like you get the chills of anytime you see one of your all-time favorite bands for the first time. I mean, it's gonna be a thing for you, you know. So the build-up and just Static X has so much fun with the theatrics and kind of putting on that show, right? Like I said, I think it was on the last one. There's a difference between a concert and a show. Or no, I might have said this in my my Casey Carlson interview article that I did recently. Shameless plug for that story. Check that one out here on the channel. Casey Carlson of Deadlands, that is. There's a difference between a concert and a show. Static X put on a fucking show. We had, you know, the big X-Head guy. There were some, you know, mascots coming out, and it was just a good, fun time. Zero fucking badass with the light-up eyes. Commanded the stage. I mean, seeing Tony out there, a cool guy, like I said, one of the staples of the band, and mentioned him for the Fear Factory episode, which that was what that was. Who was Fear Factory with? I think they were with Machine Head. I think that was the January 2024 episode of the streak. I think it was, but yeah. Not Sevendust. Static X, it's a show, man. It is a show, and like I have always enjoyed and liked the whole evil disco concept, and you know, can agree that is what it is, but they really do just a phenomenal job of making a show feel like an evil disco party. Because that was what it was. There were like foam bubbles. We had big beach ball type things. And of course the disco ball. Like everything about it. I remember the zombie performance with the big zombie character. Great fucking song. Love that one so much. Probably my favorite of the newer stuff. As they built up towards, you know, Push It at the end. And all that, like, it was just a slam dunk. Every single song was so fucking fun. I can't even really say which one stood out the most. I mean, Push It was the great closer, of course, but I fucking loved Zombie, which they might have opened with that one. Now that I think, no, maybe not. I think it was Hollow. I think they might have opened with Hollow, which I fucking love that one too. All the new stuff is great, but of course we love the classics. I think even Love Dump, we got some good Wisconsin Death Trip songs in there. And, you know, a tribute to Wayne in the middle of it. Like, still, all these years later, still giving such a focus and making it feel like Wayne is still there or never left, kind of, at every single show. And, like, I can't... The amount of respect I have for that, and just love, like, the reason I love the band so much, that's just one of the many reasons, but I feel like a lot of people would be like, try to move on and distance themselves, and of course a lot harder in the case of the guy was the heart and soul of the band. The fucking name is in it, you know. So you would hope that they would do this, but sometimes you never know. And so yeah. It was a beautiful show. Static X's performance in particular, like beautiful madness. I don't think chaos is a good word, but like it was just a good old mad, beautiful time. So fucking fun. Yeah, I missed that night, man. It was a great last show that I've seen at the Roseland, and I almost want to leave it there because it was perfect. It was so special. It was amazing, an amazing night. I remember leaving and being like, man, it's over. Man, I'm sad it's over. I'm glad it happened, but I'm still sad it's over. You know, it's not that double-edged quote there, but and I was bummed. I will say I was bummed that they didn't play Destroyer, because that is one of my all-time favorite songs by Static X. I fucking love that one, and I don't know why it wasn't played, because they have so many other bangers. I don't know, but yeah, God, what a night! What a fucking night that was. So good, you guys. If you ever have the opportunity to see Static X, I highly recommend it. And you know, if this trio, this three-piece ever gets together again, my God, I am there. I am there for it. And just going back through this set of memories, oh, I want to see them right now. I want to do it all over again. But that's pretty much it. That is pretty much it for the May 2024 installment of The Streak, you guys. I don't have too much more to add there. But that is the send-off from Portland, at least for a couple months in terms of the Portland shows. And you will know what I mean when we get there, so stay tuned for that. But before we do, we will be headed to Memphis for the June 2024 installment of The Streak. Very close to having been the end of The Streak. You'll know what I mean. But for June, it was the Sweet Lizzie Project, and I know a lot of you might not know who they are, but they are phenomenal. And there's plenty of story. I will save it. I will save it there. But that is our June show. So shout out to them. And of course, always shout out to Static X, Sevendust, dope. And we'll throw in Lines of Loyalty as well. But, man, this one really hit me, you guys. I'm feeling it right now, just thinking about that night and that send-off. And, this gets you a little bit. Just gets you a little bit. So, all right. Well, I appreciate everybody, as always, for hanging out for these, whether you're a reoccurring listener or a first-timer or just looking to hear about the bands and the shows that we talked about. Appreciate you all the same, whether it was on Spotify or YouTube. And I've been your host, as always, Drake Riggs. Follow me at DrakeRiggs_, Twitter and Instagram. Follow The Streak here on the YouTube channel or on Spotify again, wherever you're listening. And we'll be back in 2 weeks for that June 2024 episode. We're catching up. We are catching up to where we are now in present day, which that'll be kind of fun. I'll have to figure out what to do with the show in that case, how that'll adjust things. Obviously, it'll change up the release timing, but we're going pretty good at the frequency of the bi-weekly right now. So we'll see. We will see. But until then, you guys, stay safe, stay sane, have a great weekend or day or whenever you're listening to this. But we'll see you for the June episode, June 2024. See ya.